Jack Morrison pulled into the driveway of his new single-story house on Oak Ridge Lane. The moving truck had arrived earlier that morning, and most of their belongings were already inside. Jack parked his county-issued SUV and glanced at his 16-year-old daughter Lily in the passenger seat. "Well, here we are," Jack said with a smile. "Our fresh start." Lily looked out the window at the neat suburban home with its wide doorways and gently sloping pathway to the front door. Perfect for her wheelchair. "It looks nice, Dad. I think I can be happy here." Jack reached over and squeezed her hand gently. At 45, his hair had started graying at the temples, giving him a distinguished look that matched his position as senior county sheriff. But today, he wasn't wearing his uniform. Today, he was just a dad helping his daughter move to a new home. "Let's go check out that backyard space I promised you for your garden," he said. Jack retrieved Lily's wheelchair from the back of the SUV and helped her into it with practiced ease. Years of caring for a child with a rare neurological condition had made certain movements second nature to them both. Lily's condition affected her mobility and grip strength, but it had never dampened her spirit or her love for growing things. As Jack pushed Lily's chair up the pathway to their new home, a woman with perfectly styled blonde hair and a clipboard stepped out from behind a nearby hedge. She wore khaki pants and a polo shirt with Pine Creek HOA embroidered on the chest. "Excuse me," the woman called out sharply. "New residents need to check in with the Homeowners Association immediately upon moving in." Jack stopped, putting on his friendly neighbor smile. "Hi there, I'm Jack, and this is my daughter Lily. We just got here, actually." The woman did not return his smile. "Diane Keller. I'm the president of the Pine Creek Homeowners Association." She looked down at her clipboard. "You're in Lot 42. The Morrison family?" "That's right," Jack replied, noticing how Diane's eyes narrowed slightly as she looked at Lily's wheelchair. "Well, Mr. Morrison, I should inform you that any modifications to the exterior of your home or yard must be approved by the HOA board. I notice your entryway already has a ramp that was not in the original house plans." Jack kept his tone polite. "The previous owners installed that with HOA approval. I have the paperwork inside if you'd like to see it." Diane pursed her lips. "I'll need to verify that. And what's this I hear about plans for a garden?" "Vegetable gardens are strictly limited to the rear quarter of the property and cannot exceed 100 square feet. Lily spoke up, her voice soft but clear. "It's not a vegetable garden. I grow native plants and flowers that attract butterflies and birds." Diane looked directly at Lily for the first time. "Regardless, any landscape changes need prior approval. Here's a copy of our community guidelines and violation fee schedule." She thrust a thick binder toward Jack. "The next HOA meeting is Tuesday at 7 p.m. Attendance is mandatory for new residents." Before Jack could respond, a friendly voice called from across the street. "Diane, give them a chance to breathe before drowning them in rules." A woman in her 60s with short gray hair and a warm smile walked over. "I'm Nancy Gordon from across the street. Don't mind Diane. Her bark is worse than her bite. Usually." Diane's face tightened. "Rules maintain property values, Nancy. Something you might consider before putting that hideous bird bath in your front yard." With that, she turned and walked briskly down the sidewalk, her clipboard clutched to her chest. Nancy rolled her eyes. "Welcome to Pine Creek. It's actually a wonderful neighborhood when certain people aren't around." She smiled at Lily. "I heard you're a gardener. My late husband was too. I've got some native plant seedlings you might like." Jack relaxed slightly. "That's very kind of you. We were just about to check out the backyard space." "Don't let me keep you. Just wanted to say hello and offer any help you might need with settling in." Nancy looked at Jack curiously. "What brings you to Pine Creek?" Jack had decided before moving that he wouldn't lead with his profession. Too often, people treated him differently once they learned he was the senior sheriff, overseeing law enforcement for the entire county. A fresh start for Lily and me. I work in local government and the commute is better from here. Nancy nodded, not pressing for details. "Well, welcome again. Let me know if you need anything." She headed back to her house, waving as she went. Jack pushed Lily's wheelchair through the front door of their new home. Inside, moving boxes were stacked neatly against walls, but the essential furniture was already in place. The wide hallways and open floor plan were exactly what they needed for Lily's mobility. "Let's see that garden space," Jack suggested, guiding Lily through the house to the back door. The backyard was modest but perfect for their needs. A concrete patio extended from the house, and beyond it stretched a flat, grassy area bordered by a wooden fence. Mature oak trees provided dappled shade, and a small stone bird bath stood in one corner. Lily's face lit up. "Dad, it's perfect. I can picture my butterfly bushes there and maybe a small pond here, and how about we start small?" Jack laughed. "Maybe get settled in first?" Lily nodded, but her mind was already planning her garden sanctuary. Jack recognized the look. It was the same one she'd had when they first started gardening therapy after her condition worsened 3 years ago. Her occupational therapist had suggested it to improve her fine motor skills, and it had quickly become Lily's passion. As Lily sketched garden plans in her notebook, Jack unpacked kitchen boxes. Through the window, he noticed Diane Keller standing at the edge of their property, taking photos with her phone. Something told him the Pine Creek HOA was going to be trouble. At dinner that night, sitting among half-unpacked boxes with takeout, pizza on paper plates, Jack asked, "So, what do you think of our new neighborhood so far?" Lily considered the question. "Nancy seems nice. The Diane lady doesn't." Jack chuckled. "That's a fair assessment, but remember, we've dealt with tougher challenges than an HOA president with control issues. Like when Dr. Peterson said I'd never be able to use special gardening tools, and then I grew the prize-winning dahlias at the county fair." Lily grinned. "Exactly like that," Jack said, raising his paper cup of soda in a toast. "To new beginnings, butterfly gardens, and proving people wrong." Lily raised her cup too. To new beginnings. Later, after helping Lily get ready for bed in her new room, Jack sat on the edge of her bed. "Get some sleep, kiddo. Tomorrow we unpack your gardening supplies." Lily yawned. "Dad? You didn't tell them you're the sheriff." Jack shook his head. "I'd rather just be your dad here, not the senior county sheriff. It's nice to have a place where I'm just Jack Morrison." "Your secret's safe with me," Lily mumbled sleepily. As Jack turned out the light, he had no idea how significant that decision would become in the months ahead, or that Diane Keller would soon give him reason to wish he'd worn his uniform on moving day. 3 weeks passed since the Morrisons moved to Pine Creek. Lily's garden project had begun to take shape in their backyard. With her special tools designed for her limited grip strength, she had planted butterfly bushes, installed small bird feeders, and created a stone path that her wheelchair could navigate easily. Jack had built raised planter boxes at the perfect height for her to tend from her chair. On a bright Tuesday morning, Jack walked out to collect the mail and found a white envelope taped to his front door. Inside was an official notice from the Pine Creek Homeowners Association. The paper listed 3 violations: unapproved landscape modifications, non-regulation bird feeders, and improper plant height exceeding 24 inches. Jack sighed and tucked the notice into his pocket. He didn't want to upset Lily, who was happily watering her new plants. That evening after dinner, Jack called the number listed on the HOA notice. Diane Keller answered on the second ring. "Mrs. Keller, this is Jack Morrison. I received a violation notice today about our garden." "Yes, Mr. Morrison." "Your family has made several unauthorized changes to the property. The fine is $100 per violation, due within 7 days. Additionally, the unapproved items must be removed." Jack kept his voice level. "My daughter's garden is therapeutic for her condition. The raised beds and wider paths are necessary for her wheelchair. I'd like to request a medical accommodation." "The rules apply to everyone, Mr. Morrison," Diane said coldly. "You should have sought approval before making changes. The HOA meeting next Tuesday will address your violations. I suggest you attend." The following Tuesday, Jack sat in the community center as Diane presided over the HOA meeting. When his case came up, he presented a letter from Lily's doctor explaining the therapeutic benefits of her garden. The garden helps with her motor skills, provides emotional support, and gives her a sense of purpose. Jack explained to the board members. The Americans with Disabilities Act provides for reasonable accommodations. Several board members nodded sympathetically, but Diane cut in before they could speak. This isn't about disabilities. It's about following proper procedures. The Morrisons didn't submit any plans for approval. An older man named Bill Porter spoke up. Come on, Diane, the kid has a garden for health reasons. It's not hurting anyone. Rules are rules, Diane insisted. If we make exceptions, everyone will want them. The board voted 4-3 to deny Jack's request, with Diane breaking the tie. The next day, Jack came home from work to find Lily in tears. Her bird feeders had been removed, and a new notice was taped to the door threatening additional fines if the raised garden beds weren't removed within 48 hours. She came while I was working in the garden, Dad, Lily said, wiping her eyes. She took pictures of everything and said I was breaking the rules. Then she took down my bird feeders and said they were attracting vermin. Jack felt a surge of anger but kept his expression calm for Lily's sake. Don't worry, I'll handle this. That night, after Lily went to bed, Jack called his friend Alan Peters, a lawyer who specialized in housing law. She can't do that, Jack, Alan said after hearing the story. The Fair Housing Act protects Lily's right to reasonable accommodations for her disability. The bird feeders and raised beds are clearly reasonable. I'll draft a letter first thing tomorrow. The official letter arrived at Diane's house the next day by courier. It cited relevant laws and threatened legal action if the HOA continued to harass the Morrisons or deny reasonable accommodations. 3 days passed without incident. Jack reinstalled the bird feeders, and Lily's spirits lifted as finches and chickadees returned to the garden. Then on Saturday morning, Jack found their mailbox had been knocked over. The adaptive handle he had installed so Lily could open it more easily was broken. Probably just kids, Jack told Lily, but he wasn't convinced. At the sheriff's office on Monday, Jack was reviewing reports when Deputy Sam Ellis knocked on his door. Sheriff, we've got some vandalism complaints from Pine Creek. Thought you might want to know since you live there. Jack examined the reports. 5 homes had reported minor property damage over the past month. Garden ornaments broken, landscape, lighting smashed, decorative flags stolen. Jack noticed something interesting. All 5 homeowners had spoken against Diane at recent HOA meetings. I'll look into this myself, Jack told Sam. That evening, Jack spoke with Nancy Gordon across the street. Oh, it's been going on for months, Nancy confirmed. Anyone who crosses Diane ends up with something damaged. Nothing big enough to make a big police case, but enough to send a message. Has anyone reported these incidents? Nancy shook her head. Most folks just fix the damage and keep quiet. Diane can make life miserable if she wants to. Later that week, Jack was called away to an emergency at the county jail. A fight had broken out between inmates, and as senior sheriff, his presence was required. He called Lily to let her know he'd be late. I'll be fine, Dad, Lily assured him. I'm going to work on my new butterfly house. Jack had helped Lily design a small wooden structure that would provide shelter for butterflies during bad weather. Her occupational therapist had approved the project as excellent motor skill practice. While Jack dealt with the jail situation, Lily worked in her garden. She carefully arranged lightweight cedar boards using her adaptive tools. The special hammer her therapist had designed allowed her to tap in small nails, despite her limited grip strength. Lily was so focused on her work that she didn't notice Diane Keller approaching until a shadow fell across her project. This unauthorized structure is a clear violation of HOA regulations, Diane declared, holding up her ever-present clipboard. It's just a butterfly house, Lily explained. It's part of my therapy, and I don't care what it is, Diane cut her off. No structures without prior written approval. Lily took a deep breath, remembering what her dad had taught her about standing up for herself. The Fair Housing Act allows for reasonable accommodations. Our lawyer already explained this to you. Diane's face flushed with anger. Don't quote laws to me, young lady. Your father needs to learn that his fancy legal threats don't change the rules here. Please leave our property, Lily said firmly. I have permission to build this. Instead of leaving, Diane stepped closer. She glared at the butterfly house, then at Lily's adaptive tools. What are these contraptions? More unapproved items, I assume. They're my special tools. I need them because of my condition. Lily tried to stay calm, but her heart was racing. Diane picked up Lily's adaptive hammer, examining it with disgust. This is ridiculous. You people think you deserve special treatment. Please put that down, Lily said. It was custom made for me. What happened next would change everything in Pine Creek. Diane's frustration boiled over as she gripped the adaptive hammer tightly in her hand, her eyes fixed on the butterfly house that represented yet another challenge to her authority. Diane stood over Lily, gripping the adaptive hammer tightly. Her face was red with anger as she glared at the butterfly house. This ends now, Diane said through clenched teeth. She raised the hammer. I'm tired of you people thinking the rules don't apply to you. Lily held her hand out. Please give me back my hammer. It's specially made for me. Instead of returning it, Diane swung the hammer down toward the butterfly house. Lily instinctively reached out to protect her creation, placing her left hand on the wooden frame. In her rage, Diane didn't stop the swing. The hammer came down, driving one of Lily's own nails directly through the edge of Lily's palm that rested on the wooden frame. Lily screamed in pain as the nail pierced her hand, pinning it to the wood. Blood began to pool around the wound. The scream broke through Diane's anger. She stood frozen, still holding the hammer, looking at what she had done. For a moment, the only sound was Lily's sobbing. Nancy Gordon heard the scream from across the street. She rushed outside to see Lily hunched over in her wheelchair, her hand pinned to the wooden structure. Diane stood above her, hammer in hand. What have you done? Nancy shouted, running across the street. Help! Someone call 911. Bill Porter from 2 houses down ran out, phone already in hand. I'm calling now, he yelled as he dialed emergency services. Nancy reached Lily and quickly assessed the situation. As a retired nurse, she knew not to remove the nail. It's going to be okay, honey, she told Lily, trying to keep her calm. Help is coming. Diane finally seemed to snap out of her shocked state. She dropped the hammer and took a step back. It was an accident, she said, her voice shaking. She got in the way. I was just removing an unauthorized structure. Nancy glared at Diane. You hammered a nail through her hand. What is wrong with you? More neighbors gathered in the Morrisons' yard. Someone had called Jack, who was still at the county jail dealing with the inmate situation. The ambulance is on its way, Bill announced, putting his phone away. And I called her father. He's coming right now. Diane began backing away. It was an accident, she repeated. She shouldn't have had her hand there. I was enforcing the rules. Another neighbor, Alan Rogers, stepped forward and blocked Diane's path. You're not going anywhere until the police arrive. Within minutes, sirens wailed in the distance. An ambulance and 2 police cruisers pulled up outside the Morrison home. The paramedics rushed to Lily, speaking softly to her as they examined her hand. We'll need to transport her to the hospital with the nail intact, one paramedic explained to Nancy. The doctors will remove it there to minimize damage. The police officers approached Diane, who was now sitting on a nearby garden chair, looking pale. Ma'am, we need to ask you some questions about what happened here, said Officer Greg Wilson. I was just enforcing HOA regulations, Diane insisted. It was an accident. 4 neighbors immediately spoke up, contradicting her story. She took the hammer from Lily and swung it down on purpose, Nancy said firmly. Officer Wilson took statements from everyone present while his partner photographed the scene. When he finished gathering information, he turned to Diane. Diane Keller, you're under arrest for assault with a deadly weapon, he stated, removing handcuffs from his belt. You have the right to remain silent. As Officer Wilson read Diane her rights, Jack's County Sheriff SUV screeched to a halt in front of the house. He jumped out, still in his full sheriff's uniform with his badge clearly visible, and ran to the ambulance where paramedics were preparing to transport Lily. Dad! Lily cried when she saw him. Her face was pale from pain and shock, and tears streamed down her cheeks. Jack took her uninjured hand. I'm here, sweetheart, you're going to be okay. He looked at the paramedics. How bad is it? The nail went through the fleshy part of her palm, the paramedic explained. It missed major tendons and nerves, but we need to get her to the hospital. To remove it properly and prevent infection. Jack nodded grimly. I'm riding with her. He turned to Officer Wilson, who was now staring in surprise at Jack's sheriff uniform. Sheriff Morrison, Officer Wilson said, straightening his posture. I didn't realize this was your residence, sir. A murmur went through the crowd of neighbors. Most of them, like Diane, had no idea that Jack was the senior county sheriff. He had deliberately kept that information private when they moved in. Diane, now handcuffed, looked up in shock. Sheriff? She repeated in disbelief. You're the county sheriff? Jack barely glanced at her. We'll discuss charges at the station. Officer Wilson. Right now, my daughter needs medical attention. He climbed into the ambulance beside Lily. It's going to be okay, he reassured her, though his face was tight with controlled anger. As the ambulance pulled away, Officer Wilson guided Diane toward the police cruiser. You picked the wrong family to mess with, ma'am, he said quietly. The hospital. Doctors carefully removed the nail from Lily's hand. They cleaned and stitched the wound, gave her antibiotics to prevent infection, and updated her tetanus shot. The doctor assured Jack that with proper care, Lily's hand would heal without permanent damage. While Lily rested, Jack stepped into the hallway and called Deputy Sam Ellis. Sam, I need you to personally handle the Keller case, Jack instructed. I'm too close to this one. Already on it, sir, Sam replied. The officers brought her in about 20 minutes ago. She's asking for her lawyer. Make sure everything is by the book, Jack emphasized. No special treatment either way. I don't want any claims that we mishandled this because of my position. Understood, sir. How's Lily? Jack glanced back at the hospital room door. She'll recover. The doctors say there's no permanent physical damage. That's good news, at least, Sam said. I'm looking at the witness statements now. We've got at least 4 people who saw the whole thing. It's pretty cut and dry, sir. Jack sighed. Nothing about this is simple, Sam. Just follow protocol. I'll be back at the office tomorrow to deal with it officially. Right now I need to be a dad, not the sheriff. Of course, sir. Take care of Lily. When Jack returned to Lily's room, she was awake, looking at her bandaged hand. Does it hurt a lot? Jack asked, sitting beside her bed. Not as much now, Lily replied. The medicine helps. She looked up at her father with tears in her eyes. Why does she hate me so much, Dad? I just wanted to make a nice garden. Jack carefully took her uninjured hand. Some people get so caught up in rules and control that they forget about being human. This isn't about you, Lily. This is about her. All those neighbors came to help me, Lily said, a small smile forming. Nancy and Bill and lots of others. That's right, Jack nodded. For every person like Diane, there are many more good people willing to help. Remember that. As Lily drifted off to sleep, Jack sat beside her, already planning what would come next. Tomorrow, he would return to work as the senior county sheriff, and Diane Keller would learn exactly what it meant to assault the disabled daughter of the man responsible for law enforcement in the entire county. The next morning, Jack arrived at the sheriff's department in his full uniform. The deputies and staff greeted him with concerned looks. News of what happened to Lily had spread quickly through the department. Deputy Sam Ellis waited in Jack's office with a folder of papers. Morning, Sheriff. How's Lily doing today? She's resting at home with Nancy Gordon staying with her, Jack said, setting his coffee down on the desk. The doctor said to keep her hand elevated and watch for signs of infection. Sam nodded. Good to hear she's home at least. He placed the folder on Jack's desk. Here's everything we have on the Keller case so far. Jack opened the folder and began reading the witness statements. 4 neighbors had provided detailed accounts of what happened. All of them clearly stated that Diane had taken Lily's adaptive hammer and deliberately swung it down, driving the nail through Lily's hand. The DA wants to know how you want to proceed, Sam said. Given your personal involvement. Jack looked up from the papers. I'm stepping back from direct involvement in the case. You'll handle it as lead investigator. I don't want anyone saying I abused my position. Understood, sir. Sam hesitated. There's something else you should see. He pulled out another folder. We got a search warrant for Keller's home computer based on the reports of neighborhood vandalism. You were right about her being behind those incidents. Jack opened the second folder and found printed screenshots from Diane's computer. There were folders labeled with neighbors' names containing photos of their homes with notes about violations. One folder labeled Morrison contained dozens of photos of Lily's garden and time-stamped notes of when Jack came and went from the house. This goes beyond HOA enforcement, Jack said, his face grim. This is stalking and harassment. There's more, Sam added, pointing to a printout of an email. This is from Keller to the HOA board 3 weeks ago. Read the last paragraph. Jack read aloud. The Morrison situation requires decisive action to make them leave. I propose increasing fines and enforcement until they have no choice but to move out. Their modifications destroy neighborhood aesthetics and set a dangerous precedent. That shows intent, Jack said. She was deliberately targeting my family. Sam nodded. The DA is charging her with assault with a deadly weapon, harassment, stalking, and they're looking at adding civil rights violations related to discrimination against a person with disabilities. Make sure they have everything they need, Jack instructed. But I want this by the book. No shortcuts because it's my daughter. Of course, sir. Later that afternoon, Jack visited the district attorney's office. Carol Martinez, the DA, greeted him with a handshake. Jack, how's Lily doing? She asked with genuine concern. She's tough, Jack said. More upset about her butterfly house than her hand, to be honest. Carol smiled briefly, then became serious. Let's talk about the Keller case. Judge Williams signed off on all the charges. Keller's attorney is already pushing for a plea deal. What are they offering? Jack asked. They want reduced charges and probation, no jail time. Carol watched Jack's reaction carefully. I told them we'd need to consult with you as the victim's father, but that their offer was likely insufficient given the evidence. Jack thought for a moment. I want her to face real consequences, but I also don't want to drag Lily through a long trial if we can avoid it. I understand. I'm thinking we counter with 18 months in county, followed by 5 years probation and mandatory community service at a center for people with disabilities. Jack nodded slowly. That seems fair. Add a restraining order keeping her away from Lily and our property. Already included, Carol assured him. And I want a public apology to Lily. She paused. There's also the matter of the civil lawsuit your lawyer filed this morning. Jack hadn't planned to sue personally, but Alan, his friend and attorney, had convinced him it was necessary to ensure Diane faced all possible consequences. The civil case is separate from your criminal prosecution, Jack said. Any damages awarded will go to a nonprofit supporting children with disabilities. Carol nodded approvingly. I'll present our counteroffer to Keller's attorney this afternoon. Her first court appearance is tomorrow morning at 9. The next day, Jack took his place in the courtroom beside Carol. He wore his civilian clothes, rather than his uniform, wanting to be present as Lily's father, not as the sheriff. The courtroom was packed with Pine Creek residents, many of whom had come to show support for the Morrisons. Judge Patricia Williams entered, and the bailiff called for all to rise. Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Patricia Williams, presiding. Case number 2023 CR 7421, County of Ridgewood versus Diane Keller. Diane entered wearing an orange jumpsuit instead of her usual crisp polo shirt. Her normally perfect hair looked flat and dull. She kept her eyes down as she was led to the defense table. Bail hearing for Diane Keller, Judge Williams announced, looking over her glasses at the defendant. Charges include assault with a deadly weapon, harassment, stalking, and civil rights violations. How does the defendant plead? Diane's attorney, a stern-looking man in an expensive suit, stood. Not guilty, Your Honor. Judge Williams raised an eyebrow. Mr. Hoffman, given the overwhelming witness testimony and evidence, are you certain about that plea? My client maintains that the incident was an accident, Your Honor, Hoffman replied. Judge Williams looked at Carol. Ms. Martinez, the people's position on bail? The people request bail be set at $100,000, Your Honor, Carol stated. The defendant poses a threat to the community, particularly to the victim, a disabled minor. The evidence shows a pattern of targeted harassment culminating in a violent assault. Judge Williams considered this. Mr. Hoffman, your response? We request reasonable bail, Your Honor. My client has no prior criminal record and strong ties to the community. Your client used a hammer to drive a nail through a disabled child's hand, Judge Williams said flatly. Bail is set at $100,000. Additionally, I'm issuing a restraining order prohibiting Ms. Keller from coming within 500 feet of Lily Morrison or the Morrison residence. As the judge spoke, Diane finally looked up. Her eyes met Jack's, and for the first time she seemed to understand the seriousness of her situation. The woman who had wielded such power in Pine Creek now sat powerless before the law. After the hearing, Jack declined to speak to the waiting reporters outside the courthouse. Instead, he drove straight home to Lily, who was sitting in her garden with her bandaged hand resting on a pillow. How did it go? Lily asked as Jack joined her. On the patio. The judge set bail and issued a restraining order, Jack explained. Diane's lawyer says she wants to plead not guilty, but the DA thinks they'll accept a deal once they see all the evidence. Lily nodded, looking at the damaged butterfly house that still sat in the garden. Can we fix it? Jack smiled. Absolutely. And I was thinking we could make it even better. Bill Porter offered to help. He used to be a carpenter. I'd like that, Lily said. She looked around at the neighbors' houses visible from their yard. Many had put up butterfly decorations or planted new flowers in apparent solidarity. Everyone's been so nice since it happened. That's the real Pine Creek, Jack said. Not what Diane tried to make it. People who care about each other, not just about rules. As they sat in the garden, Nancy came over with a plate of cookies. Thought you two might like these, she said, setting them down. And the new HOA board wants to meet with you, Jack. They're thinking about changing some rules to make sure what happened to Lily never happens again. Jack looked surprised. New board? Nancy smiled. Oh yes, there was an emergency meeting last night. Almost everyone showed up. Diane and her supporters are out. Bill Porter is the new president, and they've already voted to approve all of Lily's garden projects. For the first time in days, Jack felt himself truly relax. Justice was working its way through the courts, but healing had already begun in their community. 6 months passed since the day Diane Keller hammered a nail through Lily's hand. It was now autumn, and Lily's garden bloomed with fall flowers. The butterfly house stood completed in the center, rebuilt and improved with help from several neighbors. A small pond with water lilies had been added nearby, with a smooth stone path allowing Lily's wheelchair easy access. Lily sat in her garden, sketching designs for spring planting. Her left hand had healed well, though a small scar remained where the nail had pierced her palm. Sometimes she felt phantom pain there when it rained, but her doctor said that would likely fade with time. Jack watched his daughter from the patio, smiling at her focus. The last 6 months had brought many changes to their lives and to Pine Creek. The new HOA board, led by Bill Porter, had completely rewritten the community guidelines. They now included clear provisions for accessibility accommodations and reasonable modifications for residents with disabilities. The legal case against Diane Keller had concluded 3 months earlier. Faced with overwhelming evidence and witness testimony, Diane had accepted a plea deal, 18 months in the county correctional facility, followed by 5 years of probation and mandatory community service at a center for people with disabilities. Jack had made sure Diane received fair treatment at the county jail he oversaw. Despite his personal feelings, he believed in justice, not revenge. He had arranged for Diane to receive counseling and anger management classes during her incarceration. The civil lawsuit had also settled, with Diane's homeowner's insurance paying damages to the children's disability charity Jack had selected. The money funded a new accessible community garden at the local children's hospital. Dad? Lily called, wheeling over to where Jack sat. Mrs. Green from the community center called. They want me to help design an accessible garden for the seniors. That sounds perfect for you, Jack replied. Your designs for our garden have impressed a lot of people. Lily beamed with pride. In recent months, she had become something of a local celebrity. The county newspaper had featured her garden in a special article about accessibility and community. Several neighbors had asked for her advice on their own gardens, and the local garden club had made her an honorary member. I was thinking about butterfly bushes along the south side, Lily said, showing Jack her sketch, and raised beds so people in wheelchairs can reach them easily. Just like yours, Jack noted. Exactly. And wide paths with smooth surfaces. She paused, looking thoughtful. Do you think we could invite Diane to see it when she gets out of jail? Jack was surprised by the question. You'd want to see her again? After what she did? Lily shrugged. Not really, but maybe seeing a garden that helps people would teach her something. Jack smiled at his daughter's compassion. That's very generous of you, Lily. We can talk about it when the time comes. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Nancy Gordon, carrying a tray of cupcakes. Fresh from the oven, she announced. Special request from the garden committee president. Lily grinned. Thank you. Being president is hungry work. After the incident, the Pine Creek Junior Garden Club had formed, with Lily elected as its first president. The club now had 15 members, mostly children from the neighborhood, who met weekly to learn about plants and butterflies. The community center board approved your proposal, Nancy told Lily as she set down the tray. They've allocated the budget for the accessible garden project. That's fantastic news, Lily exclaimed. When can we start? They want to break ground next month before the first frost, Nancy replied. They're hoping you'll oversee the design, Jack watched as Lily explained her vision for the community center garden. His daughter had always been resilient, but the events of the past 6 months had transformed her. Once shy about her disability, she now proudly advocated for accessibility in public spaces. Later that evening, as Jack prepared dinner, the doorbell rang. He opened the door to find Sam Ellis standing there in his deputy uniform. Evening, Sheriff, Sam said. Sorry to bother you at home, but I thought you'd want this right away. He handed Jack an envelope. Inside was a letter from the State Accessibility Commission. Jack quickly read it, then smiled. They approved the countywide accessibility initiative. The initiative, which Jack had proposed 3 months earlier, would upgrade all county public spaces to exceed ADA requirements. It had been inspired by Lily's experiences and the support they'd received from their neighbors. That's not all, Sam added. Judge Williams signed off on the new anti-discrimination ordinance today. It gives us more tools to protect people with disabilities from harassment and discrimination. That's excellent news, Sam, thank you. After Sam left, Jack shared the news with Lily. So all the county parks will get accessible paths like mine? Lily asked. And playgrounds, government buildings, everything, Jack confirmed. Your butterfly garden started something much bigger. The next day was Saturday, and Pine Creek held its first annual garden tour. Residents opened their yards to visitors, with Lily's garden as the featured attraction. People from all over the county came to see what had become known as the butterfly garden that changed the rules. Lily greeted visitors from her wheelchair, proudly explaining the features that made her garden accessible. Children were especially drawn to the butterfly house, where several monarch butterflies were currently in chrysalis form, soon to emerge. Did it hurt a lot? A small boy asked, pointing to the scar on Lily's hand. Yes, Lily answered honestly. But good things came from it. Sometimes that happens. As the day ended and the last visitors left, Jack and Lily sat in their garden watching the sunset. Fireflies began to appear, twinkling among the plants. You know what I was thinking, Dad? Lily said. What's that? When we first moved here, you kept your job a secret because you wanted to be just a regular dad, not the sheriff. Jack nodded. That's right. But if people had known you were the sheriff from the start, maybe Diane wouldn't have done what she did. Jack considered this. Maybe. Or maybe it wouldn't have made any difference. Some people don't think about consequences until it's too late. I'm glad we moved here anyway, Lily said after a moment. Even with everything that happened. Me too, Jack agreed. This is home now. As darkness fell, they could see lights coming on in houses throughout Pine Creek. Many windows displayed butterfly decorations in silent solidarity with Lily. The community that had once been ruled by fear and rigid rules had transformed into one of compassion and support. In the county jail, Diane Keller sat in her cell, reading a book on disability rights that her counselor had recommended. On her wall was a simple drawing of a butterfly sent by an anonymous community member. At the bottom of the drawing were the words, "Change is possible." Back in the garden, Lily pointed excitedly as a chrysalis on the butterfly house began to move. "Dad, look, it's hatching." Together, they watched as a beautiful monarch butterfly emerged, slowly spreading its orange and black wings as it prepared for flight. "That's the thing about butterflies," Lily said softly. "They have to struggle to get out of the chrysalis. The struggle makes their wings strong enough to fly." Jack put his arm around his daughter's shoulders. "You're pretty wise, you know that, Lily." Smiled. "I had a good teacher." As the butterfly took flight into the evening sky, the Morrisons watched it soar above their garden, a small symbol of transformation in a community that had learned the value of compassion over rules and the power of standing up for what was right.